Salve Tata Skipoli. Alright, we're going to talk about our Lesson 35 quiz, which is coming up on Thursday. So this is Tuesday night, so you've got Tuesday night and Wednesday night to prepare for it, essentially. So that's Lesson 35 quiz on Thursday. So what's that quiz going to be like? Well, first of all, there's a lot of vocabulary to learn for that quiz. Remember, that includes all the words, all the irregular comparatives and superlatives that we saw on page 199, as well as a few words on page 200. So that's a lot of words, and that means that the vocab section on this quiz will be a little bit larger than normal. So start studying tonight. When you're done watching this very short video, that's a great time to start studying your vocab. Otherwise, it's going to come back and be very hard to learn. From Wednesday to Thursday. That's not going to be enough time. Alright, other things we should be aware of for this quiz. We learned about this sort of construction. Plus kibi, which is just plus plus a genitive. And this would simply mean more food. Literally, it's more of food, but obviously in English we could simply say more food. Alright, so be aware of that plus a genitive type of situation. We learned expressions like this. Maximus natu. Okay, we've seen this in a video. We saw it in class. This simply means greatest by birth. In other words, the oldest. And then we have minimus natu, which means the smallest by birth. In other words, the youngest. And we also briefly looked at this possibility today. Maior natu, which means greater by birth, which would be older. Alright. Then we also saw a few adjectives that can work in pairs with a noun that have a slightly different translation from what we might expect. For example, in medio flumina. This literally means in the middle river. But what the Romans meant by this was in the middle of the river. Okay, and similarly, they had, let's see here. Let's try this. In summa arca means in the highest citadel, but really what this meant was on top of the citadel. Even though these are both ablative going within, even though up here these were both ablative going within, you translate it in the middle of the river on the top of the citadel. Okay, there's also an extremo flumina, for example, and this would be at the end of the river. At the end of the river. And then also consider one more that we haven't talked about in class, and that was just mentioned briefly in your textbook. And that would be this form, imus which means lowest or bottom of. So this would be in the bottom of the river. Okay, in the lowest river, in other words, on the bottom of the river. So be familiar with this medio, summa, extremis, imus. Be familiar with how to handle these when they modify a noun. Talking a lot about rivers here. Not very imaginative, I guess. What else do you guys need to know in anticipation of this quiz? Really nothing else in terms of material. That's the only material that will be on there. Remember, it's largely going to be about vocabulary. That'll be the biggest section. Remember that you can do the 5 times write-out for this quiz. That's full dictionary entry. Okay, for example, bonus, good, written out 5 times, okay, and do that for every word in the list. If the textbook abbreviates, you can abbreviate. Okay, so remember 5 times if you want that bonus point on the quiz. 5 times for each word, not just bonus that would be way too easy. And then the other thing I want to remind you guys of is a lot of you owe me money. Bring it. I want it. Now. Bring it and give it to me, please. One more thing to consider. As members of the Latin Club, assuming you've paid your dues, you are allowed to sign up for the etymology exam. Ooh, what's the etymology exam? The etymology exam is an online exam that you can take as a member of the Latin Club that will test your knowledge of Greek and Latin roots of English words. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I don't know any Greek roots of English words. Well, that may be true, but you know some Latin ones, and with that knowledge, you might do well on this exam. Okay, some of you might have taken this last year as freshmen. We'll take it during a specific activity period, and again, it's an online exam, so you'll be taking it on a computer. If you're interested in this, I will be asking for people to sign up for it in the next few days, so please think about that. Decide if that's something you want to commit yourself to. You've already paid the money for it, but obviously, what I mean by that is you've already paid your dues, and your dues will cover that if you are dedicated to taking this exam. So think about that and let me know when I ask in class on one of the next couple of days. So make sure we bring our money in. Make sure we think about the etymology exam. Let's make sure we start studying for the Lesson 35 quiz tonight and then study some more tomorrow night. All right, that's all we have for today. Waleta, Discipuli.